English négociant and winemaking force Boutinot Wines has entered the Okanagan Valley, partnering with Bartier Bros to produce Project B. The globally recognized distributor Winemaker will shine a large spotlight on British Columbia, a wine region that is paramount to the many making wine, yet still relatively invisible on the world wine stage. UK-based Boutinot has developed over 50 years and now is making wine in France, South Africa, Italy, Spain, and recently England. Project B is Boutinot's first in Canada, led by head winemaker Eric Monnin, a Frenchman living in Burgundy, and Michael Bartier, co-owner and winemaker at Bartier Bros. The pair have come together to talk about how Monnin's French winemaking heritage and Michael's local knowledge have combined to make a unique terroir-based Okanagan Valley wine. Well, hello, Eric and Michael. Great to have both of you this morning. I'm pretty excited to talk about this topic, but for now, thanks for joining us on Gismondi on Wine.
Bonjour.
Hey, thanks for having us. It's fantastic.
Bonjour. Let's start with you, Eric, because this is such an exciting project for so many, from so many different views for me. Having someone from outside the country come here, make a wine, maybe talk to the rest of the world about this wine, tell the story of the Okanagan. I think that's great. To interact with someone like Michael, to share views and to come to maybe understand our terroir. I think there's so many great pluses here. Let's start with it. Was it Canada or the Okanagan? Why did you end up here with this project?
Let's be honest, at the beginning I didn't know anything about Okanagan. And as a young winemaker, I've been dreaming about traveling in the South Hemisphere. But suddenly we've realized that something was happening in the north part of the planet, if I can say. And with the company, with Boutinot, we've started to develop a winery in the south of England to make English sparkling wines. And from there, we started to realize that much more vineyards were developing interesting wines. Via Megan, our colleague based in Canada, we've started to inquire and to study Okanagan Valley. And May 2018, I went there for a week. We've spent a week visiting a lot of wineries, tasting every day, trying to understand. It was very exciting for me because I've never thought one day that I would have that chance. And then we met with Michael. And this is where the story started, if I can say.
Yeah. Well, I guess sometimes we often hear this sort of cliche that French talk a lot about terroir, but don't believe anybody else has that. I think you think differently because you have been making wine around the world. What was it about Michael that attracted you as someone who could make this wine with you, who could convert your ideas to the real wine at some point?
Clearly, you're right. It's a love story, Michael, can I say. We've met a lot of people, we've tasted a lot of wines, and when we met Michael, we had a good connection in the way we were speaking about the wines, in the way we were speaking about the grapes, which is the beginning. And this is probably why we've had finally the desire, the dream of creating something together.
What was so simpatico, Michael? What is it with you that made that connection?
Actually, Eric just said it. I mean, the language, the lexicon that you use. When we're speaking about winemaking, we weren't speaking about the cellar. We were speaking about the vineyard, and we were speaking about the site. It was always about respect for the place. It was about respect for the grape. It was about respect for tradition. It was about respect for about everything that's important.
Maybe each other too.
Okay. And Eric is a very nice guy. He's a very easy person to like.
Well, both of you can answer this. I guess if we all got in a room and said, hey, this guy's going to come from France and he's going to work with Michael, they're going to make a wine, and we guessed what the wine would be, I doubt that anybody in Canada would say Sauvignon Blanc. This is another exciting part of this project because Sauvignon Blanc, I think, really is beginning to show well here, but nobody's really been growing it to any great extent. Why did you settle on that variety, Eric?
I'll make it very simple, Tony. Just walk in the vineyard. Just speak with Michael. Just look at the grapes. At the time, the grapes were not big, if I can say. It was May, so it was the beginning. But the vineyard was speaking. It's a feeling. It's a feeling between the land, the vineyard, Michael, who has been speaking and explaining about this specific Sauvignon, and this is where the story started. This is the way we've finally said, let's go with Sauvignon rather than something else. By the way, I'm also a Sauvignon lover, so that was a nice way to start.
Were you surprised, Michael, that it was Sauvignon that in the end, or?
Well, no, not at all. And the reason I wasn't surprised is, you know, a lot of this project started with what we had talked about different grape varieties, but we realized, Eric realized and brought it to our attention that it's really not about the grape variety. It's about the correct grape variety on the correct site. And we started, you know, barking down that lane, so to speak. We started going down there by looking at the sites that we had available to us, and then, you know, which of the good sites, you know, have the correct grape variety. And this Sauvignon presented itself.
Yeah. Michael, quickly in the Bartier method, maybe you could describe the site. A lot of people know the Okanagan, but you're down in the South Okanagan. You're not on the Black Sage Bench. You're in a different area. How would you explain where these grapes are growing and how that might affect the wine?
Yeah, well, one of the reasons I know the site so well is it's a neighbor. It's very close to my vineyard, so it shares our terroir, which is gravel. It's the gravel outwash on Black Sage Road, and you know, so very good drainage and very complex geology. There are many different rock types in the subsoils, which of course leads to, you know, such a complex geology leads to complex wine, which is certainly the most valued.
Eric, is there a style for Sauvignon, or is it just the place that gives you the style? Like, how do you approach a wine like this? What did you want in the end? And now that you've got it in the bottle, does it look like what you wanted?
So from the beginning, we have a good feeling in the vineyard. We've got a terroir, definitely, and Michael has the experience of the terroir. So we speak with someone who knows the grapes and who can speak to these grapes.
Yeah.
Style-wise, we've been tasting together. And clearly, we didn't want to have something too green, and we didn't want to have something too exotic. We wanted a real balance. I think that style of Sauvignon a couple of years ago were very green. We wanted to be just before the exotic tropical flavors. So the picking date was very sensitive for Michael, and that's something we've been discussing. He's been the leader, but with words, with tasting together, we've determined that. The second thing I must confess, Michael, if you accept, is the fact that Michael has what I would call pixie dust in the vineyard. And this is where we've decided to give a bit of complexity to this Sauvignon, playing with some Sémillon, barrel fermented Sémillon. And that becomes the exciting thing, not just to play Sauvignon, but to give extra layers, extra flavors to the wine. So that was this project that made it pretty exciting.
So there's a small percentage, Michael, of barrel fermented Semillon that you're growing Semillon as a variety at your winery at Bartier. That was the blend in the end. Yeah,
correct. Actually, to be clear, that Semillon that Eric just mentioned comes from the same vineyard. It's planted adjacent to the Sauvignon Blanc. It's just a separate block within that vineyard. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was, as Eric said, barrel fermented in French oak.
Thank you, Michael.
Eric, Boutinot has moved all around the world. What are the sort of things that you learn when you go to these places, and can you take those back to France as well? Has it helped you as a winemaker by making wine in South Africa or Spain or wherever?
Yeah, it has been a fantastic experience, because whereas we've got the same knowledge and let's say the same way of winemaking, you have to adapt to the grapes, you have to adapt to the climate or to the terroir. So I must say that what I've been learning in South Africa has been fantastic. What I've discovered in England has been absolutely outstanding. And then I've discovered a new soils, new weather, if I can say. Okanagan can be very hot, can be very cold. I've been surprised with the acidity at the beginning. I've tasted some wines that I thought, oh, wow, too much acidity for me. How can we improve that? How can we find a different balance? And that's something we've discussed with Michael. I must say that we haven't only discussed, we have tasted. And the wines we've been tasting together have been the link in the way we've managed, or Michael has managed, I must say, to reach the balance that we expected.
We think that acidity is a nice problem to have in the new world because it's rare that you find that. Right. So you guys have you've launched this wine. It's coming out this week. I'm wondering what's next. Will you just do more of this? Are there other things you'd like to explore, and how will that roll out?
There are plans. However, I don't want to be the spokesperson for Boutinot.
Yeah.
No, we really expect that this cuvée could take off, because we can be proud of it. And when Michael, with my colleague Julien, Rhône winemaker, who traveled and visited Michael in February this year, Julien participated with Michael to the final blend. So that was a nice partnership between Michael, me, and Julien. And when I had the chance to taste the wine 2 weeks ago, just poured the wine in a glass, and may I say, I didn't taste it. I drank it immediately, because I had the feeling that Michael managed, by the job he did and by the blend that has been done with Julien, to reach exactly the technical book, may I say, that we wanted. That was excited. That was good.
Which I think which we accept, and sometimes hard to understand, that the people are also part of that terroir story in the end. So the Boutinot style, the original style, I think from Paul, was about refreshing wines with value, and wines that people like to drink, that taste good. It seems to still be driving the business. Do you live by that code?
Absolutely. Terroir is a mix of soils, grapes, weather, and people. You've got two of these people in front of you.
I just couldn't get over the wine. I'm so happy to see it. I know there's not a lot of it. I know that it's going to get rolled out. So the collaboration, really a Boutinot wine with being made at Bartier with Michael working through the harvest. I think it's a great connection and a wonderful start. And we're really excited in Canada, in the Okanagan, to see this wine. I think it will look good for everybody, for Boutinot and Bartier, and for the Okanagan Valley. And it's the kind of thing that we need. We need that global push, Eric. So it would be nice to have someone else know the area and chat about it when they're talking to people around the world.
I started to make noise in France. I started to make noise in the UK. I will spread the message. Trust me.
Well, maybe drag a bottle up to Sancerre and serve it blind and see what people say.
I could.
It could be fun. Michael, Eric, thanks so much for joining us on Gismondi on Wine. Really great to hear about this project, and I can't wait to see the reaction from Canadians in the coming weeks. It should be exciting.
Thank you.
Merci, Michael. Thank you very much.